August 25th, 1953. Gorky. The factory begins production. A new vehicle rolls off the assembly line. Compact, simple, 4 wheels, all driven. Canvas top stretched over metal frame. The GAZ-69. The Soviet Union's answer to the Jeep. The vehicle that will carry Soviet soldiers for the next 20 years. That will be exported to 56 countries. That will become so successful over 600,000 will be built. But this is not the beginning of the story. The story starts 12 years earlier. In March 1941, with photographs of an American vehicle, the Bantam BRC, one of the Jeep prototypes. Soviet engineers studying the images, understanding what they see, realizing what they need. The Soviet Union is about to enter the largest, bloodiest war in human history. German forces will invade in 3 months. Everything will change. Everything will burn. Millions will die. And in that catastrophe, the Red Army will discover they need something they do not have. A light, mobile, go-anywhere vehicle. A reconnaissance car. A command vehicle. A weapons platform. Something that can keep pace with armor, that can operate off-road, that can survive brutal conditions. The Americans have it, the Jeep. The British admire it. The Germans will capture them and use them, and the Soviets will receive over 50,000 through Lend-Lease. We'll study them. We'll learn from them. We'll eventually create their own version. Not as good, not as refined, but Soviet, reliable enough. Simple enough, good enough. This is the story of the GAZ-69, the vehicle that replaced the American Jeeps, that carried Soviet forces through the Cold War, that served in conflicts across 4 decades. That became the foundation for an entire family of vehicles, the first major 4x4 of the Soviet Union. Not the first attempt, but the first success. The learning years. The Soviet Union tries to build 4x4 vehicles before the war. In 1938, the GAZ-61, engineer V. Agrachev designs it. Essentially, a GAZ-M1 automobile body mounted on a 4-wheel drive chassis. Advanced for the time, innovative. But production is minimal. Fewer than 240 examples manufactured. The technology is not mature. The need is not urgent. The effort ends. Then comes June 22nd, 1941. Operation Barbarossa. German forces invade. 3 million men, 3,600 tanks, 2,700 aircraft. The largest invasion in military history. The Soviet Union is unprepared. The early months are catastrophic. Entire armies encircled. Hundreds of thousands captured. Territory lost at a staggering rate. But the Americans help. President Roosevelt signs the Lend-Lease Act in March 1941, 3 months before the invasion. The timing is fortunate. Supplies begin flowing. Food, fuel, raw materials, weapons, vehicles, lots of vehicles. The Jeep arrives. The Willys MB, the Ford GPW. Identical vehicles from different manufacturers. Over 50,000 reached the Soviet Union during the war. Some sources say more. The exact number is unclear, records are incomplete, but the impact is enormous. Soviet soldiers love the Jeep. It is reliable. Fast enough, maneuverable, handles rough terrain. The steering is light, the brakes work, the build quality is good. Everything works as designed. A revelation compared to Soviet vehicles of the era. The Soviet leadership takes note. If the Americans can build this, the Soviet Union must build it too. Cannot depend on foreign supply. Cannot rely on vehicles that might be denied. Must develop indigenous capability. The order goes out. February 3rd, 1941. Before the invasion even happens, engineer Vitaly Grachev receives instructions. Develop a light reconnaissance vehicle, 4-wheel drive, capable of carrying soldiers and weapons. The timeline is absurd. 50 days. Build a prototype in 50 days. Grachev works from photographs of the American Bantam BRC, one of the early Jeep prototypes. The Soviets obtained images somehow, intelligence, trade channels. The source does not matter. What matters is the design, the concept, the understanding of what makes a light 4x4 work. March 25, 1941. The prototype is complete. The GAZ-1, also called Razvedchik. Scout. Testing begins immediately. The vehicle works. Not perfectly, but it works. The concept is proven. Soviet factories can build a Jeep equivalent. Wartime development. June 1941. The invasion forces acceleration. The GAZ-64 enters production, based on the R1 prototype, using the GAZ-MM truck engine. 3.3-liter four-cylinder, 54 horsepower, a shortened GAZ-61 chassis. Whatever components are available, whatever can be assembled quickly. War does not allow perfection. War demands function. Now, the GAZ-64 looks like a Jeep, cannot escape the resemblance, but it is built from Soviet parts, Soviet materials, Soviet manufacturing methods. The result is similar in concept, different in execution, less refined, more crude, but adequate for desperate times. Production is limited. Only 684 units. Between March 1941 and summer 1942. Then production stops. Why? The need shifts. The BA-64 armored car takes priority, uses the same chassis, provides protection. Armor matters more than speed when bullets are flying. And the Lend-Lease Jeeps keep arriving. Thousands of them. Why build Soviet versions when American versions are available? The factories focus on other priorities. Tanks, artillery, aircraft, trucks. The things the Red Army needs most. The GAZ-64 becomes a footnote, but development continues. September 1943. The GAZ-67 appears. An improved design. Wider track for stability. The GAZ-64 had a narrow 1,250mm track, rolled over easily on uneven terrain. The 67 addresses this. 1,446mm. Much more stable. Safer for the crew. The engine is the same. 54 horsepower, 4-cylinder. Nothing special. But the chassis is strengthened. The fuel tank is enlarged. The vehicle is more robust. More suitable for the conditions it faces. Production runs from September 1943 to 1953. Nearly 10 years. Approximately 92,843 units built. The GAZ-67 serves alongside American Jeeps. Comparison is inevitable. The gaze is slower. The steering is heavier. The brakes are weaker. The quality is lower. Everything about it is inferior to the Willys MB. Soviet soldiers know this. Officers know this. Everyone knows this. But the GAZ-67 is Soviet. Can be repaired with Soviet parts. By Soviet mechanics. Using Soviet tools. When the American Jeeps break, replacement parts come from America. Months away. The GAZ breaks. The part is down the road. This matters. Especially later. When Lend-Lease ends. When the Americans are no longer allies. When the Cold War begins. The GAZ-67 proves the Soviets can build a functional 4x4. Not as good as the Americans, but good enough. The foundation is laid. The experience is gained. The next step can be taken. Post-war vision. In 1945, the war ends. The priorities shift. The Soviet Union needs to rebuild. Factories, cities, infrastructure. Everything destroyed by 4 years of total war. The military still needs vehicles. Will always need vehicles. But now there is time. Time to design properly. Time to test thoroughly. Time to create something better than wartime expedients. In 1946, the order comes. Develop a replacement for the GAZ-69B, the B model, the final wartime variant, improved from earlier versions, but still fundamentally a wartime design, built quickly, built simply, built adequately. Now the Soviet Union can do better. The requirements are specific. Four-wheel drive, all-terrain capability, lower fuel consumption than the GAZ-69B. Use the engine and transmission from the GAZ-M20 Pobeda, the civilian sedan, 55 horsepower, 2.1-liter inline-4, proven reliable, economic to operate, available. Payload capacity 800 kilograms, able to tow artillery, transport troops, carry supplies, operate in temperatures from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius. The full Soviet range, from Arctic winter to Central Asian summer, everything the country encompasses. The design team forms at GAZ, the Gorky automobile plant. Chief designer Grigory Wasserman leads. F.A. Lependin, G.K. Schneider, B.N. Pankratov, S.G. Zislin, V.F. Filyukov, V.E. Podolsky, V.S. Solovyev. The same team that worked on the GAZ-69. They know light military vehicles, know what works, know what fails, know what the Red Army needs. They take their time. This is not wartime. This is not an emergency. This is development done properly. The first prototypes appear in 1947, named Truzhenik, worker, toiler. The name suggests utility, reliability, service. Exactly what the vehicle should be. Testing is extensive. On-road, off-road, through mud, through snow, through water, climbing slopes, crossing ditches. Every condition the vehicle might face. Every situation where it must perform. The prototypes are refined. Weaknesses identified. Solutions implemented. In 1948, more prototypes. Improvements incorporated. The design matures. The specifications are verified. Everything works as intended. Production approval seems imminent, but it does not come. The delay. The problem is not the vehicle. The problem is priorities. The GAZ factory is busy, very busy. The GAZ-M20 Pobeda sedan is in production. The civilian car the Soviet Union desperately needs. The GAZ-51 truck is being developed. Then the GAZ-53, medium trucks for commercial use, essential for the economy, for reconstruction, for moving the massive amounts of materials Soviet industry requires. The GAZ-69 is important, but not urgent. The military still has American Jeeps, thousands of them, still operational. The GAZ-69B is still in production, still serving. The need for a new light 4x4 is not critical, can wait, so it waits. Years pass. 1948, 1949, 1950, 1951. The prototypes sit. Testing continues sporadically. Refinements accumulate. The vehicle improves incrementally, but production does not start. The State Commission evaluates prototypes in 1951, the middle of the year. Testing is completed finally. The vehicles are inspected thoroughly. The results are good. The performance is acceptable. All copies retain their capabilities. Units remain intact. Wear is minimal. The commission is satisfied. The ticket to production is granted. Permission given. Funding allocated. The GAZ-69 will be built. At last. But still, nothing happens. The factory remains committed to other projects. The dies and molds are being used. No room exists for another model. The economics do not work. Setting up production for relatively small numbers. The GAZ-69 needs dedicated facilities. Resources specifically assigned. The solution emerges. Transfer production. The Ulyanovsk automobile plant. UAZ, a smaller operation, can handle the GAZ-69 more efficiently than GAZ. The decision is made. Production will start at Gorky, then shift to Ulyanovsk. The plan is set. August 25, 1953. Finally, production begins. The production vehicle. The GAZ-69 that enters production is thoroughly developed. 7 years from first prototype to first production vehicle. Longer than the entire duration of World War II. But the result is refined, tested, proven. Everything learned from the GAZ-64 and GAZ-67. Everything observed from American Jeeps. Everything discovered through years of trials. All incorporated. The specifications tell the story. A 2.1-liter inline 4-cylinder engine. From the GAZ M20 Pobeda. 55 horsepower at 3,600 RPM. Not powerful, but adequate. Better fuel economy than the GAZ-67. The primary goal achieved. A 3-speed manual transmission. Floor-mounted shifter. Not column shift like the Pobeda. A 2-speed transfer case. High range for roads. Low range for off-road. Simple. Mechanical. Proven reliable. The GAZ M20 gearbox adapted for military use. 4-wheel drive. Permanent front-wheel drive. Selectable rear-wheel drive. No. Both axles are driven when 4-wheel drive is engaged. A handbrake from the GAZ-51 truck. Hydraulic brakes. Drum type. Adequate for the vehicle weight. The suspension is dependent. Leaf springs, front and back. Live axles. Simple. Robust. Easy to maintain. No sophistication. Just proven technology. The springs are softer than the GAZ-67. Better ride quality. More comfort for the occupants. A concession to the fact this is not purely a wartime vehicle. The frame is ladder type. Body on frame construction. The traditional approach. The body can be removed, repaired, replaced, without affecting the chassis. Practical for military service. For long-term maintenance. The dimensions are compact. Length 3.85 meters. Width 1.75 meters. Height 2.03 meters with the canvas top erected. Small enough to maneuver. Large enough to carry troops and cargo. The wheelbase is 2.3 meters. Short. Good for off-road mobility. For tight spaces. The weight is 1,525 kilograms empty. 1,960 kilograms with standard equipment and fluids. Light for a military vehicle. Helps with fuel economy. Reduces ground pressure. Improves mobility in soft terrain. Ground clearance is 210 millimeters. Not spectacular, but adequate. Can ford water 60 centimeters deep. Can overcome vertical obstacles 300 millimeters high. Can climb slopes up to 58% grade. The capability is respectable, not extreme, but sufficient for most situations. Top speed is 90 kilometers per hour, 56 miles per hour, about the same as a Jeep. Fuel consumption averages 14 liters per 100 kilometers. The 60-liter fuel tank provides approximately 400-kilometer range, reasonable for a military vehicle, acceptable for the era. 2 variants are offered. The standard GAZ-69, 2 doors, 8 seats, open body with canvas top. For military use, troop transport, general utility. The primary version, the GAZ-69A, 4 doors, 5 seats, enclosed body with trunk. For officials, agricultural cooperatives, civilian applications requiring something more refined than a military vehicle. Less common, but available. Proof the design is versatile. Military service. The GAZ-69 becomes the basic light off-road vehicle of the Soviet Army. Replaces the GAZ-67, replaces the remaining American Jeeps. Over about 10 years. The transition is gradual. Old vehicles wear out. New vehicles arrive. By the early 1960s, the GAZ-69 dominates. The standard light 4x4. Everywhere in the Soviet military. Reconnaissance units receive them. Scout ahead of advancing armor. Report enemy positions. Identify obstacles. The GAZ-69 carries the scouts. Provides mobility. Allows rapid movement across terrain where larger vehicles cannot go. Command units use them. Officers need transportation. Need to move between positions. Need to inspect frontline units. The GAZ-69 provides. Radio versions carry communications equipment. Mobile command posts. Linking units. Coordinating operations. Infantry units employ them. Transport. Liaison. Supply delivery. Casualty evacuation. The 1,000 small tasks armies perform. The GAZ-69 handles all of them. Not spectacularly. Just competently. Reliably. Day after day. Specialized versions proliferate. The 2K-15 Schmel, armed with 4 anti-tank rockets, a tank destroyer, mobile firepower. The GAZ-69 chassis carrying weapons that can defeat armor. Fast, maneuverable, deadly. The GAZ-69 DM, mine detector vehicle, designed to locate mines buried up to 70 centimeters deep. Specialized equipment, saving lives, clearing paths, essential engineering support. The P-125 Alphavite, headquarters car for commanders. Mobile communication system, radios, maps, everything needed to command units in the field. The GAZ-69 platform supporting command and control. The GAZ-96RH, radiation and technical intelligence vehicle. For nuclear battlefields, chemical warfare scenarios, detecting contamination, warning troops, specialized missions requiring specialized equipment. The GAZ-69 adaptable enough to serve. Export versions spread across the communist world. Warsaw Pact countries. Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Romania. All receive GAZ-69 vehicles. Standardization across Allied forces. Common vehicles. Common parts. Common maintenance procedures. Beyond the Eastern Bloc. Egypt. Syria. Iraq. Soviet client states in the Middle East. Indonesia orders 4,400 units. Cambodia. Vietnam. North Korea. China receives GAZ-69 vehicles. Later builds their own copies. The Beijing BJ-212, based directly on Soviet technology. The lineage spreading. Over 56 countries eventually operate the GAZ-69. A remarkable export success. Proof the vehicle works. Proof it fills a need. Proof Soviet engineering can create products the world wants, even if not the absolute best. Good enough for most purposes, at a competitive price. The transfer to UAZ. In 1955, production shifted to Ulyanovsk, the Ulyanovsk automobile plant. UAZ takes over manufacture. GAZ built the GAZ-69 from 1953 to 1955. Maybe 1956. Sources disagree. The total from GAZ is uncertain. Perhaps a few thousand units. Establishing production. Proving the design. Then handing off. UAZ will build the GAZ-69 from 1955 to 1972. 17 years. The bulk of production. The vast majority of the 600,000 total. UAZ becomes synonymous with light military vehicles, their specialty, their focus. The vehicle built at UAZ is technically the UAZ-69, but everyone calls it the GAZ-69. The designation sticks. The original name persists, like Kleenex or Xerox. The brand becomes the product. The GAZ-69 remains the GAZ-69, regardless of who builds it. Improvements accumulate. 1970. The GAZ-69-68 appears. Upgraded version. Uses axles from the UAZ-452, the Bukanka van, stronger components, better reliability, addressing wear issues discovered through years of service. Incremental improvement. The Soviet way. The nickname emerges. Gazik. Little Gaz. Affectionate. Familiar. Soldiers use it. Drivers use it. Everyone uses it. The official designation is GAZ-69. The name everyone actually says is Gazik. Another nickname is Koziol, goat, for the way it climbs, the way it goes anywhere, like a goat on a mountainside. The GAZ-69 becomes part of Soviet military culture, part of daily life for soldiers, the vehicle they learn to drive, the vehicle they maintain, the vehicle they curse when it breaks, the vehicle they depend on when it works. Generations of Soviet servicemen remember the Gazik, their time with the vehicle. Good memories, bad memories, mostly just memories of work, of service, of doing what had to be done. 1972, production ends. The UAZ-469 replaces it. A newer design, more modern, more powerful, better in most ways. The GAZ-69 becomes obsolete, phased out gradually, retired to reserve units, storage, museums. The new generation takes over, but the legacy remains. Over 600,000 built, 19 years of production, service across 4 decades. From 1953 to the 1990s in some units, export to 56 countries. The foundation for Soviet light military vehicles, the first major success. The vehicle that proved the Soviet Union could design and build competitive 4x4 vehicles, not copies of American designs. Soviet vehicles, using Soviet engineering, Soviet manufacturing, Soviet solutions to Soviet requirements. Licensed production. The GAZ-69 spreads beyond Soviet manufacture. Romania produces it under license, first as the IMS-57, built by Industria Mecanica de Stat, the state mechanical industry, then as the Muscle M59, named after the Muscle region, a Romanian GAZ-69, adapted slightly, localized components, but fundamentally the same vehicle. The M59 evolves, becomes the M461, modernized, updated, produced until 1975. Over 20 years of Romanian GAZ-69 production, serving Romanian forces, Romanian agriculture, Romanian industry. The design proven versatile enough for extended production in another country. North Korea receives manufacturing rights, builds the GAZ-69 domestically. The exact designation is unclear. North Korean records are scarce, but the vehicles exist. Photographs show them. In parades. In service. The Soviet design supporting North Korean military capability. Part of the transfer of technology from Moscow to Pyongyang. Part of building allied military forces. China goes further. The Beijing BJ-212, developed in the 1960s, clearly influenced by the GAZ-69. Some components directly copied, others adapted. Chinese engineering building on Soviet foundation. The BJ-212 enters production in 1965, continues until 2019. Over 50 years, millions of units, the longest production run of any GAZ-69 derivative. Proof the basic design is sound. Proof it can be adapted. Proof it can endure. The lineage extends. The UAZ-469 that replaces the GAZ-69 traces its origins to the same design philosophy, the same team, the same factory. Evolution, not revolution. Taking what worked in the GAZ-69, improving it, modernizing it, creating the next generation. From the UAZ-469 comes the UAZ-3151, then the UAZ Hunter, still in production today, still using concepts pioneered in the GAZ-69. The continuous lineage of Soviet-Russian light military vehicles, all descending from that first successful design, the GAZ-69, the vehicle that started it all. The survivors. Some GAZ-69 vehicles still exist. Museums preserve examples. The National Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, Missouri. The Fort aan den Hoek van Holland in the Netherlands. Collections across former Soviet states. Each vehicle a historical artifact. Physical evidence of Cold War military technology. Of Soviet engineering achievement. Of a design that served longer than expected. Better than expected. Private collectors own them. Enthusiasts who appreciate Soviet vehicles, who understand what the GAZ-69 represents. Not the best 4x4 ever built, but an important 4x4, a successful 4x4, a vehicle that achieved its mission, that served its purpose, that proved Soviet capability. Restoration projects happen, taking rusted hulks, rebuilding them, sourcing parts from across the world, from other GAZ-69 vehicles being parted out, from Romanian M59 vehicles, from Chinese BJ212 donors. Whatever works, whatever fits. The goal is preservation, keeping history alive, maintaining examples for future generations. Some remain in service, incredibly. In 2023, Ukrainian soldiers located a 1950s GAZ-69A in Donetsk Oblast. Abandoned, forgotten. They repaired it, put it back into service. Over 70 years old, still capable of functioning, still useful for transportation, for moving supplies, for providing mobility. The simple design, the robust construction, the mechanical systems, all combining to create a vehicle that refuses to completely die. The GAZ-69 appears in popular culture. Films, television, video games, representing Soviet military forces. The iconic light vehicle, instantly recognizable. The shape, the proportions, the canvas top. Everyone knows it. Even if they do not know the designation. Even if they do not know the history. They know the vehicle, the little Soviet truck, the GAZ-ik. The GOAT. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull features a GAZ-69 in one of the chase scenes. Soviet forces pursuing the heroes, the GAZ-69 providing mobility, exactly as designed. Hollywood acknowledging the vehicle, giving it screen time, cementing its place in cultural consciousness. Conclusion. There is a photograph from the 1960s. A GAZ-69 somewhere in the Soviet Union. Soldiers standing beside it. Young men, probably conscripts, serving their 2 years, learning to drive, to maintain, to operate military vehicles. The GAZ-69 is their classroom, their transportation, their responsibility. They look confident, relaxed. This is not war. This is peacetime service, routine duties. The GAZ-69 is just another piece of equipment. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. Just the vehicle they use, day after day, month after month, until their service ends. They have no idea this vehicle is history, that it represents a milestone in Soviet automotive engineering, the first major 4x4, the vehicle that replaced American Jeeps, that proved Soviet capability, that served for decades, that spread across the world. To them, it is just the GAZ-ik, the truck they drive, that starts most of the time, that goes where they need to go, that breaks occasionally, that can be fixed with basic tools and determination. Nothing more, nothing less. That is the true legacy of the GAZ-69. Not glory, not triumph, just service. Reliable enough service, for long enough, in enough places, to matter. The Soviet Union built many vehicles, some spectacular, some disastrous, The GAZ-69 was neither. It was competent, adequate, good enough. And in military service, good enough is often all that matters. Can it do the job? Can it be maintained? Can it survive the conditions it faces? The GAZ-69 could. For 20 years of production, for 40 years of service. In 56 countries. In climates from Arctic to tropical. In terrain from desert to mountain. It performed. Not spectacularly, just steadily. Predictably. Reliably enough. Over 600,000 built. More than any previous Soviet light 4x4. More than the GAZ-64 and GAZ-67 combined. The first major success. The proof the Soviet Union could design and build competitive military vehicles without copying foreign designs. Using foreign inspiration, yes. Learning from foreign examples, yes. But creating something Soviet, something their own. The first major 4x4 of the Soviet Union. Not the first attempt, but the first that worked. The first that mattered. The first that served. The first that lasted. The GAZ-69. The GAZ-69. The vehicle that proved good enough is sometimes exactly what you need.